Philadelphia police have identified a suspect in connection with a deadly shooting inside a North Philly barbershop. 44-year-old Armand Hilton is wanted for murder, robbery, and related charges. Police say he shot and killed Tiffany Wade inside a barbershop on Lehigh Avenue on Saturday afternoon. Investigators say Hilton opened fire inside the barbershop, hitting Wade in her torso and head. She died at the scene.
Tiffany took her 7-year-old son to get a haircut at Platinum Cuts Barbershop. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday afternoon, just a mom and her kid running errands. But when the door opened and a man walked in, everything changed. Tiffany's face went pale. She knew exactly who it was, and she knew why he was there. "Mommy! Mommy!" her son screamed as 2 gunshots rang out through the barbershop. The man who pulled the trigger, the father of the boy who just watched his mother die. Tiffany Wade lay on the floor dead, shot in front of her own child by someone who was supposed to love her. But here's what makes this case different. Tiffany didn't just steal money from this man. She took his entire criminal empire, made it her own, and refused to give it back when he got out of prison. This is the story of Tiffany Wade. Welcome to our channel. Please like this video, share, and subscribe to this channel to help raise awareness and spread caution. Tiffany was a force. Born in 1983 in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Tiffany grew up in a devoted Muslim family. Her parents taught her discipline, hard work, and faith. These values would shape everything she did later in life. By age 20, Tiffany had already earned her nursing license. Most people her age were still figuring out what to do with their lives, but Tiffany was already saving lives in hospitals. She didn't stop there either. She went back to school and earned her master's in nursing. But Tiffany had bigger dreams than just working for someone else. She wanted to build something of her own. She started 3 successful businesses. First was Kisses Care Home Care, where she provided medical care to people in their homes. Then came Kisses Amour Extensions, a beauty business that made women feel confident. Finally, she launched Seasoned Kisses, expanding her empire even further. On social media, Tiffany was known as Nail-a-Hammer the Blue Blueprint. She had 47,000 followers who looked up to her every day. She wasn't just posting selfies and food pictures. Tiffany shared her business journey, motivated other women, and showed people how to build their own success. Her daily routine was strict. Every morning started with reading the Quran, then she would post motivational content for her followers. After that, it was all business, managing her companies, meeting clients, and building her brand. Tiffany was also a mother of 3 children. Imagine juggling a nursing career, 3 businesses, social media, and raising kids. Most people can barely handle one job, but Tiffany made it look easy. People in Philadelphia knew her name. She was the talk of the town, not because of drama or gossip, but because of what she had built. She drove nice cars, wore designer clothes, and lived the life she had worked for. Tiffany represented something powerful, a woman who refused to depend on anyone else. She had her own money, her own businesses, and her own influence. She was completely independent, but independence can be dangerous when you're dealing with the wrong type of man. Enter Armand Hilton, 44 years old, from Chester, Pennsylvania. If Tiffany represented success and independence, Armand represented everything opposite. Armand wasn't just some regular guy with a criminal record. This man had charges for kidnapping, robbery, and weapons offenses. When people in the streets heard his name, they either feared him or avoided him completely. His own associates were scared of him. That should tell you everything you need to know about what kind of person Armand really was. So, how did a successful businesswoman like Tiffany end up with someone like Armand? That's the million-dollar question that haunts this entire case. They met, and somehow Armand convinced Tiffany that he was different. Maybe he showed her a softer side that nobody else ever saw. Maybe he promised her things that sounded good at the time. Or maybe he was just that good at manipulation. What we do know is that Tiffany became pregnant with Armand's child. This created a bond between them that would eventually cost her everything. But their relationship wasn't built on love. It was built on control. Armand didn't want a partner. He wanted someone he could own. He disguised this control as love, the way dangerous men always do. The warning signs were there from the beginning. When someone has a history of kidnapping and weapons charges, that's not someone you build a future with. When people in the streets fear your boyfriend, that's a red flag you can't ignore. But Tiffany was already in too deep. She had his child, she cared about him, and maybe she thought she could change him, or that their love was different. Armand saw Tiffany's success and wanted to use it for his own benefit. He didn't respect what she had built. He saw it as something he could control and profit from. This wasn't a relationship between equals. This was a predator who found a successful woman and decided she belonged to him. The stage was set for a disaster that would end in tragedy. Everything changed when Armand found out he was going back to prison. He had pending charges that weren't going away, and his lawyer made it clear he was looking at serious time behind bars. But Armand had a problem. When you're a criminal with assets, the government doesn't just let you keep your money and properties while you're locked up. They seize everything they can prove came from illegal activities. Armand owned several properties and had money tied up in various investments. All of it was about to disappear the moment he got sentenced. He needed someone with a clean record to hold everything for him. That's where Tiffany came in. "Just hold it down for me, baby," Armand told her. "I need everything in your name until I get out. You know I'm good for it." It sounded simple enough. Tiffany was the mother of his child and his wife. In her mind, this was what couples do for each other. When your partner is in trouble, you help them out. So Tiffany agreed. Properties, bank accounts, business investments, everything got transferred into her name. On paper, she now owned Armand's entire criminal empire. But here's what Tiffany inherited: rental properties that needed constant maintenance, tenants who didn't always pay rent, business deals that required her attention, and financial responsibilities she never asked for. Armand expected her to be a temporary caretaker. Keep everything safe, collect the money, pay the bills, and wait for him to come home. In his mind, nothing really belonged to her. She was just holding it. But reality hit Tiffany hard. Managing these properties wasn't easy. She had to deal with problem tenants, fix broken pipes, handle legal issues, and make business decisions every single day. Months turned into years. Tiffany wasn't just babysitting Armand's assets anymore. She was actively running them. She was making the tough calls, solving the problems, and growing the investments with her own skills and knowledge. This is how criminal men operate. They use women as shields for their dirty money. They put everything in their girlfriend's or wife's name, then expect complete loyalty and control from prison. The woman takes all the legal risk. If something goes wrong, she's the one whose name is on the paperwork, but the man still expects to call all the shots from behind bars. What Armand didn't count on was that Tiffany was smart, capable, and ambitious. She didn't just maintain his empire, she improved it. And that's when the real problems started. Before we continue with what happened next, I'm curious about something. What would you have done in Tiffany's position? Would you have waited for him to get out and given everything back? Or would you have moved on and kept what you built? Let me know what state or country you're watching from and share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding this story as crazy as I am, hit that like button to help us out. Prison changes people, but it doesn't just change the person behind bars, it changes everyone they leave behind too. While Armand sat in his cell counting down the days, Tiffany was out in the real world learning how to run an empire. And she was getting really good at it. At first, she was just trying to keep everything together like Armand asked. Pay the bills, collect rent, handle basic maintenance. But Tiffany's business mind started kicking in. She saw opportunities everywhere. She renovated properties that were falling apart and raised the rent. She got rid of problem tenants and found better ones. She took the money from Armand's investments and put it into smarter deals that actually made sense. Meanwhile, her own legitimate businesses were exploding. Kisses Care Home Care was getting more clients every month. Her extension business was booming because women loved her products. Everything she touched seemed to turn to gold. But the biggest change wasn't financial, it was personal. Tiffany met someone new. This wasn't just some rebound relationship. This was a man who respected her intelligence, supported her businesses, and treated her like an equal partner. For the first time in years, Tiffany remembered what it felt like to be loved instead of controlled. Her whole lifestyle transformed. She was traveling to exotic places, shopping for designer clothes, and throwing all-white birthday parties that became legendary in Philadelphia. Her social media showed a woman living her absolute best life. Tiffany started posting motivational content that revealed how much she had grown. One post said, "Every storm is not a test from God. Some storms are from the choices you made." She was talking about Armand. She realized that the chaos in her life wasn't some divine test. It was the result of choosing to be with a dangerous man. The woman who had once agreed to hold things down was now building her own empire. She combined Armand's criminal money with her legitimate business skills and created something bigger than either could have achieved alone. Tiffany wasn't just managing properties anymore, she was a real estate mogul. She wasn't just running businesses, she was a successful entrepreneur with thousands of followers looking up to her. Most importantly, she wasn't waiting for anyone to come home and take control of her life again. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It took years of hard work, smart decisions, and personal growth. Tiffany had evolved from a woman who needed a man's approval to a woman who didn't need anyone. She had tasted real independence and success. She had experienced genuine love and respect. She had built something she was proud of. There was no way she was going back to being controlled by Armand. But Armand had no idea what was waiting for him on the outside. When Armand Hilton walked out of prison, he expected to pick up exactly where he left off. In his mind, nothing had really changed. Tiffany was still his woman, the properties were still his empire, and life would go back to normal. He probably imagined a happy reunion. His loyal wife waiting for him with open arms, his money safely stored and ready for him to take control again. Maybe he even thought Tiffany would be grateful for all the experience she gained managing his affairs. But reality hit him like a brick wall. The first sign something was wrong, Tiffany had changed the locks. Armand couldn't get into properties that used to be his. When he tried calling her, she wouldn't answer. When he showed up places, she wasn't there. Then he found out the truth. Tiffany had sold some of his properties. She had moved the money around. She was living with another man, and worst of all, she had completely cut him off. No communication, no negotiation, no explanation. Tiffany had made her choice, and that choice didn't include Armand. From Tiffany's perspective, this made perfect sense. She had spent years building something real. She had found genuine love with someone who respected her. Why would she go backward to a life of control and fear? But in Armand's world, this wasn't just betrayal, this was theft. He didn't see Tiffany as someone who had earned the right to keep what she built. He saw her as someone who had stolen what belonged to him. This is the difference between ownership and partnership. Armand believed he owned Tiffany and everything she touched. Even after years in prison, even after she had done all the work, he still thought everything belonged to him. Tiffany saw it as a partnership that had ended. She had held up her end of the deal while he was gone. Now she was moving on with her life. But men like Armand don't understand the word no. They don't accept that women can make independent decisions. They disguise their need for control as love, and when that control is threatened, they become dangerous. Armand had expected to come home to a grateful, waiting woman. Instead, he found a successful, independent businesswoman who didn't need him anymore. For someone with his violent history and controlling personality, this was the ultimate insult. Tiffany hadn't just moved on, she had thrived without him. And that's when the threats started. At first, Armand tried the nice approach. He sent messages asking Tiffany to talk. He promised they could work things out. He even tried using their son as a way to get her attention. But when Tiffany continued to ignore him, Armand's true nature came out. The messages got darker, more violent, more specific. "I am a psychopath," he wrote to her. "You ain't making it out of Philly." Think about that for a second. This wasn't some angry text sent in the heat of the moment. This was a calculated threat from someone telling her exactly what he was capable of. But it got worse. When Armand found out about Tiffany's new relationship, his rage exploded. "You marry this expletive. I'm blowing his head off," he threatened.
And you've been bringing it up. So now I'm going to give you what you want. I'm never going to touch you again. I'm never physically going to hurt you. You marry this nigga, I'm blowing his head off on everything I love. I'm going back to prison.
He wasn't just threatening Tiffany anymore. He was threatening to kill any man who dared to be with her. This is how abusers think. If they can't have you, nobody can. The most chilling message came next. That boy is the only reason you're still walking around. He was talking about their son. Armand was basically saying that the only thing keeping Tiffany alive was the fact that she was the mother of his child. But even that protection had limits. Most women would have kept these threats private. They would have been too scared or embarrassed to let anyone know what was happening. But Tiffany made a different choice. She posted screenshots of Armand's threats on her social media. The community reaction was split. Some people blamed Tiffany for poking the bear. They said she should have just given him back his money and avoided the drama. Others saw the threats for what they really were, evidence that Tiffany was in serious danger. Why did Tiffany make these threats public? Was she leaving breadcrumbs in case something happened to her? Was she hoping public pressure would make Armand back off? Or was she just desperate for someone to take her seriously? Experts say that when domestic violence victims go public with threats, it's usually because they feel like they have no other options. The police might not take it seriously until someone actually gets hurt. Family and friends might not understand how dangerous the situation really is. By posting the threats online, Tiffany was creating a permanent record. She was making sure that if something happened to her, everyone would know exactly who was responsible. But going public with threats can also make the situation more dangerous. It can embarrass the abuser and make them feel like they have nothing left to lose. Tiffany was stuck in an impossible situation. Stay quiet and hope Armand would eventually give up? Or speak out and risk making him even angrier? She chose to speak out. She documented everything. She made sure the world could see what kind of man Armand really was. Looking back, those social media posts read like a woman who knew she was running out of time, someone who was trying to protect herself the only way she knew how. But documentation can't stop bullets, and social media posts can't save your life when a dangerous man decides he's had enough. October 7th, 2023 started like any other Saturday for Tiffany Wade. She woke up early and began her morning routine with prayers, just like she had done every day since she was a child. After her prayers, she made coffee and checked on her businesses. Even on weekends, Tiffany was always working. She had 3 companies to run and thousands of social media followers who looked to her for inspiration. She made breakfast for her 3 children. It was one of those perfect family moments, a mother taking care of her kids on a quiet Saturday morning. Nobody could have predicted that this would be their last meal together. Around mid-morning, Tiffany posted what would become her final Instagram story. "Stay focused. Your time is coming. Cut out distractions." Those words feel haunting now. Was she talking about her business goals? Was she trying to motivate her followers? Or did she somehow sense that her time was running out? At 12:30 p.m., Tiffany looked at her 7-year-old son and said, "Come on, baby, time for your haircut." It was a normal Saturday errand. Every parent has done this 1,000 times, taking their kid to get a haircut, maybe stopping for ice cream afterward, just regular family stuff. They drove to Platinum Cuts Barbershop on the 2500 block of West Lehigh Avenue. It was the kind of neighborhood barbershop where everyone knows everyone. A safe place where families come every week. The barbershop was busy that afternoon. Kids were getting haircuts while their parents chatted. The barbers were joking around with their regular customers. It was exactly the kind of normal, peaceful atmosphere you'd expect on a Saturday. Tiffany's son climbed into the barber chair. The electric clippers started buzzing. Tiffany stood nearby, probably scrolling through her phone or making small talk with other parents. Everything was perfectly normal until 1:47 p.m. That's when the doorbell chimed and someone walked through the front door. Tiffany looked up from her phone. The moment she saw who it was, her face changed completely. The color drained from her skin. Her body went rigid with fear. It was Armand Hilton. For a split second, time seemed frozen. Tiffany knew exactly why he was there. After all the threats, all the messages, all the warnings, this was the moment she had been dreading. The barbershop went quiet. Everyone could feel that something was wrong, but nobody understood what was happening. Then Armand pulled out a gun. 2 shots rang out through the barbershop. The first bullet hit Tiffany in the torso. The second one hit her in the head. "Mommy! Mommy!" Her 7-year-old son screamed from the barber chair. He had just watched his father shoot his mother right in front of him. Tiffany collapsed to the floor. Blood was everywhere. The other customers were screaming and diving for cover. The barbers were trying to figure out what just happened. And Armand? He ran. He left his own son crying over his mother's body and disappeared into the streets of Philadelphia. Someone called 911. "Someone just shot a woman at the barbershop," the caller said. "Her kid is here. He saw everything." Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Tiffany Wade was pronounced dead at 2:04 p.m. A successful businesswoman, a devoted mother, a woman who had built an empire from nothing, gone in an instant because a man couldn't accept that she had moved on with her life. The last thing Tiffany's son saw was his mother falling to the ground. The last sound she heard was her child screaming her name. And the man who caused all this pain? He vanished into the city, leaving behind a traumatized child in a community in shock. Within hours of the shooting, Philadelphia police had launched a massive manhunt for Armand Hilton. Crime scene investigators swarmed Platinum Cut's barbershop, collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses. An all-points bulletin went out across multiple states. Armand's photo was sent to every police department in the region. The FBI got involved because fleeing across state lines after committing murder is a federal crime. The $20,000 reward was offered for information leading to Armand's arrest. Flyers with his picture appeared all over Philadelphia and surrounding areas. The community response was immediate and emotional. Vigils were held for Tiffany. Her social media filled with tributes from friends, customers, and followers who had been inspired by her success story. But the manhunt faced serious challenges. Armand had connections throughout Philadelphia's criminal underworld. People who might have information were either too scared to talk or too loyal to cooperate with police. Different jurisdictions made the search complicated. If Armand crossed state lines, multiple police departments had to coordinate their efforts. Street loyalty and fear created a wall of silence around anyone who might know where he was hiding. Armand's network of criminal associates wasn't about to turn him in. These were people who had feared him for years. Even with him on the run, they weren't willing to risk becoming his next target. Months passed with no arrests. The case remained active, but leads were running cold. As of today, Armand Hilton is still at large. He's wanted for first-degree murder, and the FBI considers him armed and extremely dangerous. The $20,000 reward is still active. Somewhere out there, a man who killed his child's mother in front of that child is walking free. And a 7-year-old boy has to live with the memory of what his father did. Tiffany Wade left behind 3 children who had to figure out how to live without their mother. 3 kids who went from having a successful, loving mom to being orphans in a single afternoon. The oldest daughter had to grow up fast. She stepped into a role no teenager should ever have to fill, becoming a mother figure to her younger siblings. In a heartbreaking social media post, she wrote about her mother, "You really built me, Ford tough." That phrase says everything about how Tiffany raised her children. She didn't just give them love, she gave them strength. She taught them how to survive, how to be resilient, and how to keep going even when life gets impossible. Every year, the family holds heavenly birthday celebrations for Tiffany. They gather together, share memories, and honor the woman who gave them everything. It's their way of keeping her spirit alive and making sure her legacy doesn't die with her. But the 7-year-old who was in that barbershop carries a different burden. His last image of his mother isn't a happy memory or a bedtime story. It's watching her fall to the ground after his father shot her. That's trauma no child should ever have to carry. Despite everything they've been through, Tiffany's children continue her legacy. They run some of her social media accounts, keep her businesses alive, and inspire others with their strength. The courage it takes to rebuild your life after losing your mother to violence is unimaginable. But these kids are doing it every single day. Before we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts on this case. What do you think Tiffany should have done? Should she have left Philadelphia and given up everything she built? Should she have lived in hiding? Or should she have tried to negotiate peace with Armand? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story impacted you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your engagement helps us bring awareness to these important cases and honor victims like Tiffany Wade.